Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. The community of Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba is mourning the loss of one of its members who died last week fighting in Ukraine. His family says he enlisted with the intention of staying until the conflict with Russia is over. Tamara Pimentel has more.
It was on November 13 when the family of Austin Laughlin-Bercier got the call. The soldier from Opaskwayak had been missing for 2 days while fighting in Ukraine. Later that day, they were told the 25-year-old was dead. Austin's sister, Faith Laughlin-Bercier, says he was always offering a helping hand. In a message to APTN, she wrote, "He told me when he was done fighting, he wanted to come back to our reserve and become someone who can teach the young children of our community." In 2016, Austin graduated from the Bold Eagle program, military training combined with traditional teachings. From there, he volunteered in Peru, teaching English in small communities. He then went to Europe in 2022 and decided to help more communities in Portugal. Not long after, he enlisted in the Ukrainian army at the Poland border. 2 months in, he posted on his social media page, "Seeing all the people losing their homes and loved ones while Russia was indiscriminately killing civilians and committing war crime after war crime, it was extremely infuriating. I felt obligated to come and I will stay until this conflict is over." He sent his last message to his mom on November 9. Faith says her brother's body hasn't been found yet due to ongoing combat, but will rest next to his kukum when he returns. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A new foundation for supporting children and families affected by missing and murdered Indigenous people has launched in Manitoba. The John James Tanner Legacy Foundation will be developed and led by Gambler First Nation, located west of Winnipeg. The First Nation started the charity off with a large donation of $1 million. The money will go to support the grieving family members of missing and murdered Indigenous people through educational, financial, and psychological assistance. The Foundation's board of directors will include some First Nations leaders, such as Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kathy Merrick. At a press conference, Merrick said the Foundation marks a significant moment in the history for the cause.
Our commitment to justice for our relatives involve tangible efforts, from community-driven initiatives to building support networks and advocating for systematic change. That's all we ever wanted, was to be able to change the system, that we'd be able to bring forefront the issues of our missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's not just about rewriting a narrative. It's about actively engaging in the crucial work needed to address the root causes of MMIWG crisis.
Treaty 1 First Nation leaders held a groundbreaking ceremony in Winnipeg last Monday, where the construction of an urban reserve is set to begin. As Tamara Pimentel reports, the Chiefs are banking on the site to bring economic growth to First Nations in Manitoba and provide some much-needed housing in the city.
It's the first phase of Nawe Odina, a long-awaited project on the former Kapion Barracks Army Base in southwest Winnipeg. The 109-acre lot will be transformed into an economic zone and urban reserve.
This has been long overdue for our people to take our rightful place. We have always been economic people. We have always been people that sat down and made agreements.
Broken Head Chief Gordon Blue Sky joined the leaders from 6 other Treaty 1 First Nations to welcome the project. The Treaty 1 nations were awarded the former Army base in 2019 following a dispute with the federal government. A small portion is still owned by the Canada Land Company. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew said his government has passed a cabinet order relinquishing any future claims to the site.
This is economic reconciliation. This is an opportunity to see people move forward together in a good way with the Treaty 1 leadership as stewards of this economic development.
Nawe Odna could accommodate up to 3,000 homes and hold roughly 1 million square feet of commercial space. The development is expected to be completed in 10 to 15 years. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Well, as the temperature drops and winter creeps in, the stakes for survival become even higher for the unhoused in Yellowknife. One non-governmental organization says they're doing their best amid growing demands and dwindling funds. APTN's Charlotte Mort-Jacobs brings us this story.
Fraser Thrasher has been living in his truck for over 2 weeks. He's a former client of the Salvation Army's 32-bed transitional program in Yellowknife, Bailey House. But after 4 years, his stay is up.
They are under no obligation to help you find accommodation. When I came here, transition house, you're supposed to go on to something better. I'm sitting here at 62 years plus with a few medical issues that are legit: severe osteoarthritis, CPAP machine, diabetic medicine. I have not used none of them for over a week.
Thrasher is a residential school survivor from the Beaufort Delta. He lives on $830 a month disability payment. He would get more, but his Inuvialuit beneficiary money is counted as income and gets clawed back.
The government made these land claims, but the territorial government doesn't want to honor the federal government's wishes. So basically, when I'm on income support, every little check I get from land claims and I have no control on it, guess what? We owe the government more money.
Thrasher says he's not eligible to rent because he owes $1,500 in arrears to YK Housing. He's not alone. According to latest 2023 numbers from Housing NWT, the total rental arrears debt is sitting at over $11.5 million. Territorial policy makes it difficult when you owe money. Clients at Bailey House can stay for 3 years. That can go up to 4 years max. Salvation Army Director Tony Brushett says the staff at Bailey House prepare clients to move out months in advance, helping find housing.
It gets into a legal piece, and once you start getting into year 4, it almost comes down to something similar to squatters' rights. When people go in on property, then we could be forced into a landlord, type of a deal.
The Salvation Army is the only emergency shelter men can access in Yellowknife, but they don't have the capacity nor the funding to keep clients during the day.
They're doing what they do all day. Another piece that's missed when you're dealing with the shelters is there's no programming. There's no way to do programming for them, so that's the missing piece. When they come back again 7 o'clock tonight, most have had a bad day. Now we're going to warehouse all these people together. Our shelter's always 120, 130, 140% full.
Tonight, James Picard will find an open apartment building and sleep in the laundry room.
I see a lot of people sleeping in the banks and they have nowhere else to go. Yeah, I'm a little bit more, resourceful. I even poked a hole in one of the hoses so I could drink some water and take my medication.
He's on long-term disability from a traumatic brain injury. He can't afford the $2,400 rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the NWT capital. Picard briefly stayed at the shelter, but says he left because he fears for his safety.
I recorded the situation that happened where a man there threatened to bomb the place, threatened to kill everybody with a gun, and came at me with what seemed to be a pair of scissors or long-nosed pliers as a stabbing weapon.
Based on the latest figures from 2021, there are over 300 homeless people in Yellowknife. Living in his truck has taken a toll on Fraser.
Everything changed and deteriorated. I started going back to my old lifestyle of under so much stress and pressure that I started caving into using drugs and alcohol like I used to.
Due to an election media blackout, APTN was unable to ask NWT Housing about the matter. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Coming up after the break, some of the events to mark the anniversary of Louis Riel's death. Stick around. Welcome back. There will be plenty of new faces in the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly. Our reporter Charlotte Mort-Jacobs brings us the results of yesterday's territorial election.
Voters in the Northwest Territories have been adamant. They want change. 16 out of 19 members of the Legislative Assembly were chosen in yesterday's election. There were 7 ridings where incumbents failed to win re-election. These included some former cabinet ministers, like Polly China, who was beat by Daniel McNeely in the Saw-2, and Diane Archie, who lost the Inuvik Boot Lake riding to Denny Rogers. The other incumbent legislative members who were ousted are Frida Marcellos, Frederick Blake Jr., Ronald Bonarouge, Rocky Simpson, and Katrina Knockleby. In Yellowknife, all 7 MLAs are non-Indigenous, with Clincho Stacey Smith failing to capture the Great Slave Riding. By contrast, outside of the capital city, of the remaining 12 seats, 8 of the MLAs are Indigenous. The new Indigenous MLA-elects are Cheryl Yakalaya for the Date Cho, George Narasu for Mackenzie Delta, and Lucy Kupatana for Nunakput. There are also familiar faces. Those returning include Inuvialuit-elect Lisa Semler for Inuvik Twin Lakes, Punade Willade incumbent Richard Ajericon, and acclaimed Montfui-elect Jane Armstrong. Returning for their 3rd terms, Métis incumbent R.J. Simpson for Hay River North and Shane Thompson for Nahunde. Both served as cabinet ministers in the last legislature, and both are being touted as potential premiers. There's no political parties in the Northwest Territories. Instead, it's consensus government. That means residents have to wait until MLAs cast secret ballots on November 30th to find out who their premier and cabinet ministers will be. Assignment of portfolios to the 6 ministers will be announced on December 7th. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Thursday marked the 138 years since the execution of Louis Riel, the leader of the Métis and founder of Manitoba, who fought for his nation's rights and identity. In Winnipeg, Manitoba Métis citizens gathered around Louis Riel's gravesite and laid wreaths to pay tribute to him. Riel led 2 resistance movements against the Canadian government and played a major role in preserving Métis language and culture. Manitoba Métis Federation Minister of Housing Will Guidon led the wreath-laying ceremony.
It's this idea of understanding what it means to be courageous, what it means to be, he didn't ask to be a hero, but we needed one, and he became that for all of us. And in spite of the overwhelming odds, he knew that it was the right thing to do, to stand up for what was right.
Meanwhile, about 30 people gathered at Ottawa City Hall on Thursday for a flag-raising ceremony to commemorate the day Métis leader Louis Riel was executed. Fraser Needham has more.
Ottawa Mayor Mark Sutcliffe and Métis National Council President Cassidy Caron both helped raise the infinity symbol flag in front of City Hall. Caron said Riel was a strong advocate and organizer for his people, and for this he paid the ultimate price with his life.
In his time, Louis Riel was called upon to organize our people, the Métis people, because organizing at that time and continuously today was the only shot that we had at remaining Otapem Miswak, which is to be self-governing, to be our own bosses, to be the ones who own ourselves. And Louis Riel was killed for that organizing.
Riel was executed by Canada on November 16, 1885. Caron said if Riel were alive today, he would be disappointed Métis rights are still not fully recognized, but he would also be proud of what has been achieved.
He would want us to celebrate the successes that we have accomplished as a Métis nation. He would want us to be proud that we continue to organize, that we continue to organize ourselves in his honor, to carry out his legacy.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation in Alberta wrapped up a 3-day conference in Edmonton designed to help protect the Nakota language. The event brought hundreds of Nakota, Lakota, and Dakota people together to find methods to revitalize the Nakota Stoney language. Elders, educators collaborated together to find the best method of teaching the language to youth. The keynote speaker was Chief Arvel Lookinghorse from South Dakota.
So many people, even other nations have chosen our sacred language to speak, and to us it's a part of a prophecy that we honor the sacred language, and we honor the spirit of Mother Earth, and that we need to unite all nations, all faiths, one prayer.
It's one of the last communities in Quebec to still be using diesel generators, even though it's down the road from a Quebec hydro reservoir. But after decades of neglect, the work of connecting the Algonquin community of Kitsisasik to the Hydro-Quebec network has finally begun. Maricela Amador has more.
Quebec politicians, along with Hydro-Quebec representatives, descended on Kitsisakik to mark the beginning of the Animiki Ishkote project. The first phase? To install electrical panels in every home. As of now, about 50 households have been modernized, representing half of the community.
C'est historique, puis c'est une fois dans la vie. Fait que je remercie aussi à mon chef, puis au conseil aussi de se bâtir. Ça fait longtemps, ça fait des années. Puis là, aujourd'hui, où ce qu'on en est, c'est une grande fierté à vivre. C'est pas juste pour Kitsisakik, mais pour les autres communautés qui voient de l'espoir aussi.
Because Kitsisakik is not a recognized reserve, they've had to rely on costly diesel generators to power their homes. The province's Indigenous Affairs Minister, Ian Lafreniere, noted that the work so far shows a concrete gesture on behalf of the government. He also emphasized the government's commitment to partnering with First Nations in the shift to green energy.
Je vous dirais cependant, depuis 2-3 semaines, il y a plusieurs communautés qui sont venues nous voir, moi, mon collègue Pierre Fitzgibbon, qui veulent développer des projets, mais ils veulent les faire comme partenaires. Ils ne veulent pas être témoins, ils ne veulent pas voir ce qui arrive, ils veulent être partenaires, que ce soit de l'éolienne, que ce soit des mini-centrales. Donc, il y a plusieurs possibilités, on va les faire avec eux.
Because he spends most of his monthly income on gas, community member Jacko Ponisway is anticipating the arrival of electricity. But he worries about the impact it will have on the community's way of life.
J'espère juste que les plus jeunes, les prochaines générations, comment je pourrais dire ça? Il ne dépendra pas trop de l'électricité pour rester à la maison. Puis il faut aussi les faire sortir. Il va falloir trouver des projets aussi pour les faire sortir, organiser plusieurs activités.
Oui, il y a d'autres projets. Oui, on va travailler ensemble.
Many of the community's 400 members still wonder why it has taken 40 years to get electricity, especially since there is a Hydro-Quebec dam that cuts through the middle of Kitsisakik. Jimmy Papatsi, the town's director of infrastructure and natural resources, explained that for many years, the relationship with the public utility has been tense.
Quand on regarde Hydro-Québec, les premiers travaux, c'est quand ils ont construit le barrage Lac d'Ozois. Ils ont tout simplement tassé Maguin, les Autochtones qui vivaient le long de la rivière. Ça s'appelait Wigosibi. On suivait les poissons. Nous, on vivait déjà là.
Hydro-Quebec's explanation is that the dam was never designed to generate electricity. The work, which started this summer, is scheduled for completion in 2025. Hydro-Quebec is footing the $32 million bill. Kitsisakik Council Chief Régis Ponisway hopes that the new relationship with Hydro-Quebec will lead to more development for his community.
C'est la prochaine étape qu'on va devoir regarder pour la communauté, c'est d'avoir accès à l'eau potable. On regarde à l'heure actuelle tous les avenues qui pourraient être qu'on a autour.
Kitsisakik members must still buy bottles or boil water taken from the community center. Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Kitsisakik, Quebec.
From the oil field to the catwalk, we'll introduce you to Cree fashion model Tyson Martel after the break. Welcome back. A ceremonial pipe has been returned to the Whitecap Dakota First Nation in Saskatchewan after 138 years. The pipe belonged to Chief Whitecap, a Dakota chief who was accused of treason as part of Louis Riel's council during the Northwest Rebellion. Whitecap was acquitted. A Canadian militia officer kept the pipe after a ceremony in 1885 while Whitecap was detained. It was donated to the Royal Canadian Military Institute and loaned to the Fort York Historic Site, where it's been for the last 9 decades. During a ceremony on November 10th, the pipe was returned to the Whitecap First Nation. The Western Development Museum in Saskatoon will be its new home.
It's coming back to its rightful place, and this, as part of the reconciliation process, that much more timely to bring the pipe back to Whitecap and to the community.
Well, this week is International Indigenous Fashion Week in Edmonton. APTN's Chris Stewart spoke to Cree model Tyson Martel about his quick rise in modeling and his nomination for Male Model of the Year.
It's not often that a career oil worker in his 40s gets to change gears, just slightly, and perform in Hollywood movies and hit the stage at fashion shows. But 44-year-old Tyson Martel, a Cree from Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan, has done just that. Less than 2 years ago, he was asked to give it a shot, and it's been a fast rise since.
I'm an actor. I've been in a lot of movies. I can't tell you which ones because it's a non-disclosure agreement, but they're coming out here soon. And I'm just feeding my inner child, and then this modeling just kicked in, and I'm just like, well, okay, well, this is the path creator wants for me, then let's do it.
He's been around the world working with famous models and celebrities. He has an upcoming movie with Russell Crowe.
I got to model with Ashley Collingbull, and then after that, we did another show out in Edmonton, and then we did the Métis Crossing one, and then I went to New York for New York Fashion Week. So this awards was like, you know, it's gone so fast.
And this Sunday at the International Indigenous Arts and Fashion Awards, he is up for Model of the Year, and Tyson is excited.
We're doing the Edmonton International Fashion Week, and it's just going to be an amazing time. And my mom's going to be there, my 3 aunties, my sisters, so it's going to be fun to model in front of them and show them that different side of me.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Well, good luck to Tyson. Well, that's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. Of course, for news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy, thanks for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.